Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second ever live episode of You've Never Seen It right here on Flick and Reel. As always, this is my journey to never hear these four words again. I am your host, Allison Salamoni, and tonight we have a double feature that we're doing. It was Sean Wingblade's choice this month, and we have the double feature of Lords of Dogtown and the documentary that it's based off of, Dogtown and the Z Boys. So before we dive all the way into it, let me bring on my channel co-host and technically guest for this episode. First off, channel co-founder, skateboarder extraordinaire, even though he's busted his knees a few times doing it, it's the one and only Jesse Swift. What's up, Jesse?
Hey, I thought this was appropriate. This is probably the most appropriate excuse I've had to bring this on the show. It's one of my favorite presents that I've received from our, I was going to say cast and crew, but I mean, we are a crew that is a lovely cast of characters, so I guess it's so appropriate.
Absolutely.
I will never skate that board. Ever.
Ever. And of course, as always, we have the person who chose these films for this month's live episode, the one and only editor extraordinaire and resident California kid. It's Sean Wingblade.
Californian. Yeah, is that
up?
the only I'm editor extraordinaire? Is that the only thing I'm known for?
I mean,
California, apparently.
And California. And I mean, what else do you want me to say? You were a part of a movie trivia league that is no longer in existence, along with Jesse. So I mean, I could have brought that up.
We don't need to talk about
that. It's what we're here to do.
There's a whole lot of movie trivia to go on tonight if you're curious about like the people. There's a whole lot of cameos that I did not remember.
So
people
many
were
cameos
in this movie.
Foggy Nelson.
Yeah.
Eldon Hansen was in it.
Yeah.
And it was half the movie before he had his first line, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Hey,
I know.
Wizard arrives exactly when he's supposed to.
I'm sure that's exactly the line. Speaking of trivia, I just really quickly want to say before Allison gets to go into our whole spiel, which we love so very much, is what's going to be fun about this is it's going to be, I think, a little bit more of diving into actual events or history and things than we do with a lot of the movies, because one, it's based more or less off true stories, especially the Lords of Dogtown is based off of the documentary. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the first documentary on the series?
Yes.
That's fun. That's a fun first.
I didn't even realize that. You know what that is? That's really cool.
And
I love it.
I love it. Yeah.
Future episode. Have you seen The Death of Superman Lives? What happened?
No.
It's hard to find. I want to watch. I haven't watched it either. I want to. I just couldn't find it.
I bought it when it came out. I paid the $20 or whatever it cost, and watched it when it first came out. And then Schnepp passed away, and I think I watched it one more time, but like loosely, like I didn't like sit down and watch it. Mm-hmm. So that could be a fun one if you're curious about what happened to the Nicolas Cage Superman Lives Tim Burton movie. That's a good one.
I'm sure we can definitely discuss it another time.
We'll do a double feature with Superman Returns and The Death of Superman Lives. What happened?
My last sentence, because we don't always get together, is I just want to say I had to invite myself on this show because I saw Sean and Allison discussing. Is like, hey, how about the two Dogtown movies? And I was like, the guy on the channel that skateboards did not get the invitation to the show. But to be fair, I hadn't
always invited to the live one.
Thank you. I hadn't seen the documentary, so this was an excuse for me to actually watch the documentary. I had watched Lords of Dogtown, and it's a fun double feature. I like doing it back to back, especially in the order that I did.
It's interesting to watch them both and see where they took some liberties and where they. But I don't know how much you want to dive into, Allison. How many notes you have? So Stacy Peralta, the skater, one of the main characters in both features, obviously. Mm-hmm. He did the documentary. He became a filmmaker after he retired from skateboarding, and he wrote the movie. The whole screenplay is done by him, and then Catherine Hardwicke directed it, who did everyone's favorite Twilight.
Did she really?
Yeah, she directed the first Twilight movie.
What? Yeah. I'm looking up her IMDb right now. I mean, I have the IMDb for Lords of Dogtown up, but like nothing else after that. So now I want to go into like all of her stuff and see. Oh my God, she did 13. Loves that movie. Mm-hmm. Love that movie.
The girl, what's her name? the main girl. I just looked her name up too. I can't remember now.
I think the love
Erica
triangle in that movie was
something?
still a better love story than Twilight.
In 13.
No, in
Oh.
Lords of Dogtown between Jay
Oh,
and
Nikki Reed,
Stacey
yeah.
and-
Nikki Reed. Yes, Nikki Reed was
Yeah.
in 13. She was in this, and then she was in Twilight.
I think both for 13 with Nikki Reed, I think this was her and Evan Rachel Wood's like first breakout roles was them in 13.
I've seen bits and pieces of that movie, but it wasn't something. I mean, it came out like 2003. I was a high school boy. There was no way I was going to sit down.
Oh no, you weren't going to watch it. I was a high school girl, so I did watch it.
Right.
That's how we roll.
Jesse's like, I was in elementary school because I'm younger than you.
I'm just a baby.
Jesse was like, I was in 4th grade. It's fine.
Yeah.
You turd. I did not realize Lords of Dogtown came out in 2005. I thought it came out way later.
Right.
But
No, Lords of Dogtown. Well, I mean, it had to predate Dark Knight, right?
Yeah.
Because Heath Ledger, so you knew it had to be earlier than that.
Well, before I was friends with people who did movie trivia, I wouldn't have known that, Jesse.
Right.
So.
It was on Heath's like come up. Because when did 10 Things I Hate About You come out? Early 2000s, right?
I'm gonna say 2001, and now we're gonna go look at it.
I'm gonna say
what Google is for.
3.
We're gonna go. I got Heath Ledger. Did you pull it up?
Did you get it? It?
No, I got Heath Ledger's IMDb pulled up.
So far, this is my favorite intro to any You've Never Seen It
10 Things I Hate About You. Are you realize 10 Things I Hate About You? 1999.
Oh wow, we were all wrong.
Yeah.
In the 90s? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Side note, fun note.
You wore your Flick and Reel shirt today?
Oh, no one comment. That's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate. I had someone, I was getting a Togo sandwich the other day, and someone was like, I like your shirt. And I was like, thanks. She's like, what's it for? I was like, it's me. I do a movie podcast.
There we go. F&R shirt is very nice, John. Thank you.
Look at Mike.
I was out and about in Target today wearing my Woke Shills hoodie.
I love that. I love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting our channel that I did not start and bulldoze my way into. But anyway, I digress. Before we dive into,
it should be before we drop in.
If we're gonna use skating terms, before we drop into this episode.
While you talk, I'm gonna ignore you and order my kid dinner because I need to order DoorDash. So I can
Johnson, I'm gonna let you finish. But
this show is great. I'm so happy with this. Anyway, before we really kind of deep dive into everything and drop into it all, we do have our Streamlabs are open. We now have that funky little super chat, so you can send in your questions, your thoughts, your comments. We will make sure to get to them. If not in the middle of the show, at the end, we will be going through a Q&A. So get everything.
Who wants to be our first super chatter?
Who wants to be our first super chat? We haven't had a super chat yet.
Yeah, this is only like the third live stream we've done, but we haven't had a super chat yet. Just throwing it out there to the audience.
We have super chats now because we hit 1,000 subscribers, so this is great.
For $5, I will take my Flick and Reel board on the carpet and I will do a pop shove it.
Ooh,
because
I got real. I'm not gonna lie. When you said for $5, I got real nervous to where you were gonna go with I'm like, Jesse,
in Sean's words, $5 is $5. $5 is
$5. Yeah, 100%.
It's $5 more than you had before you said it.
100%.
So there's that. But anyway, so all that being said, gotten that all the way, let's go ahead. We're gonna dive into it. But before we start getting into the nitty gritty of both of these movies, Sean, while you are ordering your kids food, since these were
I'm trying to get them some Sonic.
Ooh, Sonic is great.
Right.
These were the movies that you chose to do. So everyone can get a little peek behind the curtain. These live ones will typically be the Flick and Reel family and crew. We're going around. Last month, Jesse got to choose Labyrinth. And this month it was Sean's turn, and he decided to go through this double feature of Lords of Dogtown and Dogtown of the Z-Boys. So, Sean, why?
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
I bantered so long so you could get through that.
I just got to the kids' meals. I was ordering myself a burger. John Lustina with our very first super chat. Win a race and Google will take less of a cut. You know what? Maybe. We also have a Streamlabs, which is down, should be down in the description if you feel like doing that. John, you're always the man. We appreciate it. John will forever be our first super chatter. We're going to take a screenshot. We're going to pin it on Twitter or something.
John, if you're not first, you're last, Strina.
And John Lastrina just unsubscribed to the channel. Anyway.
Also, William Harold, we may not have had a super chat yet, but we do have a super chat, and we appreciate you guys always being here.
And I have 3 super cats.
Super cats. That wasn't part of the deal. Why did I pick these movies? I love these movies. My mom's boyfriend, he kind of grew up in this culture, right? Like skate culture. And so he introduced me to the documentary, or maybe I just saw him watching it, like Lords of Dogtown and Z-Boys. And he would do this type of skating. He was a ground skater. He used to compete at competitions when he was younger, because he was much older back in 2000 when the movie came out.
Expect pop trivia throughout this video from yours truly.
Well, I will not answer that. But this is the type of skating he did the stuff like with the what are they called, like the slide outs and stuff like that.
Bert slides, named after Bertelmann,
the surfer. And so that's where I glommed onto the documentary when it came out. He was very excited. He wanted to show it to me. I'm like, cool. And then the movie came out, and I was like, oh, awesome. It's an actual like feature length movie. And I think I don't think I saw it right away, but maybe I saw it because I knew who Heath Ledger was. I knew I had seen 10 Things I Hate About You. Maybe it was right around when The Dark Knight was about to come out. I was like, oh, the guy playing the Joker was in this movie. And I think that's when I saw it. It was after I had graduated high school and stuff like that. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I saw it in theaters. I can't remember. I remember seeing it. I just don't have a vivid memory of how it went down. But I liked him. It was cool. And it was, I think it just came up in conversation. I think it just, it was just one of those things where you've never seen this. You've never seen this movie. And so I thought it'd be fun to put on the list and we could all check it out. Jesse chimed in and added himself to the list, which is fun.
I think it's only appropriate that I bomb Allison's show after she bombed our entire channel.
Pretty much.
Bombed is not the right word. I mean, what's
bulldozed is the term that I use for how
I meant dropped in,
bulldozed in.
You didn't bomb our channel. You're the heartbeat of the channel.
Aww. The episode is turning into say nice things about Allison. Is that what this is? Because
always.
You could also super chat nice things about Allison by clicking on the
My love language is words of affirmation. So any nice things you can say about me, I will take. So all that being said, we watched this. Jesse, you had seen Lords of Dogtown, but not the documentary, correct?
This is true. These are facts. Which is fun. I still got to learn things.
Yeah. Which order did you watch them in?
Well, obviously, originally I saw Lords of Dogtown first. But
that's right, because we discussed this as I just said.
It's a fair question because it was literally 10 years ago. Because for skateboarders, really, there's 3 movies, right? There's not including, if you include the documentary, there's 4. But there's Lords of Dogtown, Dogtown the Z-Boys. Then there's Grind, which is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
And then there's Street Dreams, a little lesser known because it's kind of niche, but Rob Dyrdek is one of the main actors in the movie.
He's
actors.
Actor. I was gonna say actors. I've never heard of this before. So he was an actor in the film.
Ryan Dunn from Jackass is an actor in the movie.
Okay.
Yes, R.I.P. Paul Rodriguez, another famous skateboarder. It's basically a bunch of actual either skateboarders or skateboard community adjacent people making a movie. I'm just going to keep using quotation marks because it's very entertaining. Clearly didn't win any awards, but I had a great time with it. Anyway, so we don't have a lot to choose from. So I was in that vein of, watching what I could for skateboarding in the early years of getting into it. And so I watched Lords of Dogtown, of course. And then, so this time I started with the documentary because I didn't know how much time I was going to have. Turns out I watched the entire documentary and half of Lords of Dogtown. So the back half I still haven't watched in 10 years.
But you've seen it.
But I have seen it, yes.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So do you remember how it ends?
I remember a sad bit about part of the ending.
Okay. because so it ends on. I mean, not to not spoil it. We've all seen the movie now, and hopefully anyone watching has seen the film. So it ends on the dog bowl sessions with
Yes.
Sid as after his brain surgery. It doesn't end on I wouldn't say a sad note, but he's probably not going to do too well after the movie's over.
Right.
And they do the explainer thing at the end, like this person is here's in real life, that's where this person is gone. He didn't come up until the end of the documentary.
Right.
And the way Jay, and was interesting because I haven't seen this in 20 years, the documentary. I saw it once, maybe. So I thought it was interesting the way that the movie portrayed their relationships and the way the documentary at the very end, Jay's like, or Tony's like, yeah, so this kid, not like, hey, our friend.
Yeah.
Sid. No, he's just like, yeah, this kid just really likes skateboarding, and he emptied his pool so we could hang out with him. Like,
it was like an enthusiast, a skateboarding enthusiast. It sounds like he's kind of a Klingon, to the group, but not really like a member of it. But the movie had him as part of the Zephyr team, or at least he got a shirt,
right?
Or whatever.
Which I thought was really interesting. Like, and again, it kind of goes into the whole idea of like, it's the more dramatized version. You're gonna add stuff to it. It gave a little bit of heart to the film itself over like, with the documentary, like you're getting into like the nitty gritty. Like Jay Adams' life was not great, and you knew that in the movie, but they still gave you some like good beats and some good notes, especially with his relationship with Sid being there throughout it all and everything. But like in the documentary, it ends with the screen card saying Jay Adams is alive and well, but is currently in prison on drug-related charges. Like clearly had not done too great.
I had not been skating very long when, what year no, you know what? I think it was an old magazine. I think Jay Adams had already passed by the time I had started skating.
Jay?
Yeah.
He's not alive.
No, he's not.
Or at least he was when this movie came out.
Yeah.
In 2005. When did you start skating?
Hang on. Well, I started skating in... This is not what we signed in for.
Reason being, and that's why I pulled up this screen grab.
I was 13.
And what year was that? Reason being, I pulled up this screen grab because Jay was in the movie. This is Jay.
Yeah.
So
he passed away in 2014. So he died of a heart attack in 2014.
Oh, so gotcha. I am mistaken then, because I started skating in like 2008.
So I didn't know that. I didn't look that up. I didn't know that I almost just said a fun fact. That's not a fun fact. No. I'm sorry. Shout out
this
to Jay.
is going
my bad.
Swimmingly, everybody.
Anyway,
it's going so well.
So they all they all have parts in the movie. And this is Jay. I think in this same scene, Tony Alva is also, but I don't know where he is in the scene. He might be this other guy. This is some creepy dude. I don't know who this guy was. Or this might be. I think this was Tony over here. This guy holding his mom's hand or something like that.
It's
but yeah.
The cameos are wild, but yeah, the idea of like the documentary ending with and then we had the dog bowl sessions, but the whole movie, like there's a whole climactic point where everyone's already gone their separate ways, and then they're all meeting up with like Stacy had taken his girlfriend at the time out to look at whatever, and Jay and all those and Nikki, show up. And that's when she mentions like, oh, the equilibrium thing was real. He had a brain tumor. And it's obviously very, very different than what it was portrayed in real life.
Yeah. And I like that the documentary really was going through like a whole bunch of different members of the Zephyr team. And the movie did definitely focus on like four of them. But there's a lot of other things going on. Like, is it Peggy?
Yeah.
Is that her name? Yeah. She existed in the movie, but wasn't really like a primary focus of it, where I felt like she got to shine in the documentary, even more so the fact that she was actually there to talk about it. Right. And then they went over one of the competitions that she got first in above Jay and Tony and Stacy.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. No, I agree. I would have loved to have seen more of Peggy in Lords of Dogtown. But I mean, I get it. You got to narrow it down. Stacey Peralta is the one who wrote it. So I would figure like his main focus would probably be the three of them who and where they ended up.
And he's also the one that kind of, I mean, Tony's obviously legendary, and I mean, so is Jay's names, but Stacey's the one that like took the next step. It really feels like, as far as like running Powell Peralta, which then was like Bones Brigade, which gave Tony Hawk a name. Like he had a continuous mark on skateboarding through the decades with more than just his skating. Whereas the other guys kind of, they're all talented, but most of them stopped at their skill point. And then Tony did try to do like Alva skateboards for a little while, but Stacey was really the one that I think has the legacy from the Zephyr team.
But he did the best job at Stacey did the best job at marketing himself and like taking charge of the business aspect of it, which is, it's not something you would like, you don't expect that of a kid, right? I didn't realize until now, watching the documentary, after watching the movie, all these actors are young adults, but they're all grown ass men, right?
Right.
You know, playing the roles. These kids, when the movie, the events of the movie started in real life, they're like 13.
Right.
So they obviously aged them up a bit because, you know, they had the same actors playing the same characters for the course of about like 5 to 8 years or so, which is what the movie kind of takes place over. And so that was interesting. They didn't get into how young these kids were getting into all the shenanigans, and, you know, Tony and Stacey making probably millions as a young kid, but obviously squandering it or spending it wrong, except for Stacey, who, you know, put it into, you know, other endeavors, which is better. Because at least the way they came across in the documentary, it doesn't seem like any of them are doing too well in life, but I don't know. That could have just been the filmmaking style.
I mean, I think Tony Alva is probably he's fine. Like they showed at the end, like when they did like the title cards at the end of the documentary, like what everyone's been doing. The only one that was not doing great was really kind of Jay Adams. Right. You know, and obviously RIP, but like Tony was still doing his skateboarding stuff and still, it said he was doing well with his family, whatever. I mean, Stacey is obviously, I think he's done all right for, you can say, with his career.
Tony Alva was in multiple Tony Hawk's pro skateboarding games.
Was it really?
Or at least American Wasteland, for sure.
I didn't recognize. Maybe I just didn't. I mean, you know, when you watch movies as a younger person, you don't pay quite as much attention as we do now, like doing trivia and stuff like that, where we're actually paying attention to stuff. Huh? And so maybe, you know, just how I watch, because I hadn't watched this movie in 20 years, pretty much since it had come out 15 years or so.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't glom on, and maybe it's because I'm not in the skateboarding world. I skated for a little while, but I was terrible at it. I was more like an inline skater. I rollerbladed a lot. Which is what I was going to ask you, Jesse. Where does Airborne list on your skating movie hierarchy?
I haven't seen Airborne, but I did forget to mention...
You've never seen Airborne?
I haven't, but I did forget to mention Skateboard Kid 2.
Oh, now, the Devil's Backbone?
If there's a Skateboard Kid 1, I've never heard of it.
Does your mom drive a Zamboni? Oh, my God. Everyone shame Jesse in the chat.
I'm just saying my favorite extreme sports movie that came out in my childhood would be the one and only Disney Channel original movie, Brink.
So sorry.
Brink. Hell
Brink.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, so here is...
Didn't make it onto Jesse's top three.
Tony Alva in Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, getting you ready for one of your first missions.
Okay.
Yeah, anyways. He's wearing an Alva. You can see, wait, hang on. He's wearing an Alva, if it focuses on an Alva shirt.
That's
right
awesome.
There.
I'm into it.
Yeah, shame.
Love it.
Shame, Jesse. Shame.
Shame. I don't know if Allison had a segue, and if she did, I apologize for interrupting. But one thing upon rewatching Lords of Dogtown that I really wanted to comment on is that the editing to me feels so perfectly skateboarding, because it's not erratic in the sense of just like chop, 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 you know, like like a Bourne movie or something like that. But it's tonally kind of breakneck, and nothing feels planned. Like obviously the movie's very intentional, but the events don't feel planned. They feel very kind of chaotic and very spontaneous, which really, when you watch the documentary, encapsulates what these kids were going through and what this like zero to cultural explosion was, starting in like the late 60s going into the 70s and stuff. Is it the way that surfing translated and transitioned into what early skateboarding was and what skateboarding grew to be. And Lords of Dogtown kind of, puts it all in a nutshell. And you can tell, like, when they have competitions, and right, like now when you have professional competitions like the X Games and stuff like that, people are planning their runs. Like, okay, I'm going to do this trick and this trick and this trick.
Right.
Then Jay Adams went out there and he's like, I'm going to put my hands on the ground. I'm going to skirt off the side of this ramp. I'm going to do this. Antonio, like, they were just flying by the seat of their pants, having a good time, at least at first. And then I think part of what really divided them as a team is how they handled that sense of celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I love that they captured that as well as they did.
Absolutely. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head too with everything is, skateboarding as I knew it is Tony Hawk landing the 900 for, the first time ever, like.
Oh, by the way, the youngest kid to do the 900 from Seattle, Washington.
Was it you?
No, it was. I don't think I could go up a ramp and pivot on my board 900 and nonetheless like go up there and
That's funny.
The kid successfully did a 900 at a younger age than I had started skateboarding.
That's crazy.
What?
He did it at 12 years old.
Wild.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah, Mitchie Brusco.
Wow. Okay.
From Renton, Washington, to be specific, but we say Seattle because it's close enough.
Okay.
I mean, I don't live in Seattle either, but you ask where I'm from, I say Seattle, Washington, because people know.
Same. I mean, Orlando. I'm in the Orlando area, but I'm not in Orlando.
I'm less than an hour from Seattle. It counts as Seattle. Anyway.
100%.
People ask me where I am. And I'm like, oh yeah, Roseville, California. And they're like, what? I'm like, Sacramento. And they're like, where's that? They're like, is that near LA? I'm like, no, it's the capital of California. You dumbass. I was hit up by someone who was like, "Oh yeah, we're going to LA for this. I think it was like a Mark Ellis show or something." And he's like, "Well, I see." I'm like, "No, that's 8 hours away. I'm nowhere near LA."
You ask most people the capital of Washington, they're like Seattle. I'm like, no, it's Olympia.
Tacoma. Oh, what is it?
Olympia.
Like Tacoma.
I'm
so smart. Thank you for coming to our geography lesson here at Flick and Reel.
Speaking of California and Santa Cruz, and
yeah, I got my hat. I wear that. That's still the hat that I wear. That hat every day. My Santa Cruz hat. I love my Santa Cruz hat. I grew up to and from Santa Cruz, and it's not related to like this movie and all, but the skate and the surf vibe is still is alive and well in those types of towns.
Oh yeah.
My mom used to own a restaurant in Capitola, which is just south of Santa Cruz, and it's like the bougie, like everyone has their pinky up in Capitola, but everyone's still high as fuck because it's all of Santa Cruz is stoner towns. And she owned a restaurant back in the 70s, long before I ever came along. And then her ex-husband, before she ever met my dad, stole all her money and ran away, and she had to go bankrupt. But that was a whole nother story. But she owned a restaurant space like 100 yards from the freaking beach, and it was like this upstairs space. You could look over and you could see the ocean. You could see everyone playing on the beach. It was really cool because we've gone back and visited. She would show it off. I'm like, I used to own that spot there. And it's the same vibe. It's the same surf town and skate town and stuff like that. And I feel like even though, it's 8 hours away from Venice, it's the same type of, like, maybe that's why I glommed onto it as a movie and as a culture, especially as a younger kid, which I didn't really grow into. I grew out of it, but I felt like, that was the stuff that I enjoyed. So yeah, it all resonated with me.
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, again, like watching skateboarding thing, I loved watching I want to see the summer of like my sophomore through like senior years of high school was when like X Games was the shit, especially the summer X Games where you had the skateboarding, you had the motocross, you had the BMX, and watching like the big air and everything going with it. But then going back now and watching these movies, getting to see where, and I think the documentary does a really, really good job of explaining the full evolution, right? Like you don't get that full explanation with the Lords of Dogtown. You see like they're at the one competition and the judges didn't like what they were doing and they disqualified people, or they gave them whatever they did because it wasn't this stand up, standing, do a handstand kind of thing. It's that surf style, which then gave these guys gave way to, once they were able to get into the pools because of the drought that was going on, were able to
like a perfect storm and situation,
right? Because everything's going to evolve, right? It's that's how you get to the Tony Hawks doing the 900s, or the Mike Metzgers in motocross doing the double backflip that was like unheard of during this time. So, because everything's just and it's still evolving to this day, right?
The growth in any feat, I feel like, is whether it be like professional sports or like science, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Growth is exponential because you're gonna just build on the backs of what came before you, and you don't know what's possible until that one person doesn't. It's like like even like in the documentary, they're talking about Tony Alla finally being the one to go over the edge of the pool and do an aerial and come back down, and then they show a bunch of photos of like all of them doing it, right? And then but none of them knew it was a possibility until that one person did it, and they're like, holy shit, that's something we can do, let's all try it, right? So you get that one person who just breaks that ceiling, that glass ceiling. Same thing with Tony Hawk, like Jesse, like you just said, like Tony Hawk was the first one to do a 900. Now everyone can do a fucking 900, right? It's just a huge thing.
Well,
I said it, but
I can't do a 900, but everyone else can. I'm the one person.
Yeah, Allison said it, but I just mean like you were talking about the young kid who did it, right? Like he's the youngest kid ever. He's 12 years old or whatever, Well, like now it used to be this thing that no one could do. Tony Hawk was the only one that could do it, and now everyone.
And
not everyone,
when he first did it, didn't exactly land it clean.
No,
right? Like he came down and he had to and his hand went to the ground. Like he landed it, but it wasn't a clean landing. I gotta ask though, did you guys ever watch the show? I think it was on Vice, called King of the Road.
Yes.
Okay.
You know about King of the Road.
I do know about King of the Road.
I'll tell you real quick. King of the Road, you can now you're talking about like Thrasher's King of the Road, right?
Yeah.
Where they went around, they got points. Yeah. It's a competition. They had various skate teams and stuff.
Yeah.
King of the Road is so much fun. It's kind
so
of fun. It's part competition, part a little bit of Jackass, part like, but it's all skate teams. And they still do it. It's mostly on like Thrasher's YouTube channel now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they did feature it on TV and stuff for a while.
It was on Vice for a few seasons.
And then there was Built to Grind also.
I did not see that one.
Okay. That's another conversation. But there's a lot of fun skateboarding shows that have been in and out of TV. Life of Ryan Sheckler.
I watched Life of Ryan.
So I was on MTV.
Yep.
I was like, I'm living vicariously through this kid who was just a little younger than me. And I was like, I should be doing this, but I'm like, no, this kid, he lives a crazy life.
I absolutely should not be doing this. I am not getting, my fat ass is not getting on a skateboard and going up and down.
We were skating downtown. I think I was in middle school, so I was probably 12 years old or so. And we were going down this parking garage, like into underneath a hospital. And my mom was at like doing a meeting thing, and my friends were hanging outside, just fucking around like kids do, and went down. There was like a grate, like a drainage thing at the bottom.
That's why you need your urethane wheels.
Just fucked up. Like I just ate shit. Basically, like I think like Tony does at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
When he's going downhill and he hits it and he goes through the light and then he hits the pebbles on that's exactly what I did. But I was wearing a sweater vest with no sleeves on and basketball shorts.
Ooh.
And I fucked up everything. I couldn't wear sleeves for like 3 months. Like it hurt so bad.
I think that's another thing.
My whole arm just scabs.
The other thing that the documentary points out really well and talks about is not just the evolution of skateboarding as a sport, but of boards themselves, and how you started with the clay wheels, and as soon as you hit just like, I mean, there's tiniest, it automatically halts and you're flying.
Do you know who that guy was that introduced the urethane wheels in the movie?
The actor?
Mitch Hedberg, the comedian.
Really?
Yeah. That was
did
the
not.
only thing. Yeah, I saw him in the credits afterwards on I saw him on IMDb. I'm like, of course that's that guy.
This is
So-
my
He's a
perfect
weird comedian.
trivia spot because of where you are and talking about skateboarding really quick. You can still get that like old style, like they're not clay wheels anymore, obviously, but that old style of like really small, tight skateboards. Does
Mhm.
anyone know what they're called?
No.
No, I got 2 of them in my garage.
Penny boards.
Baby
Hmm.
boards.
Penny.
Baby boards.
Baby boards. Okay.
My kids have them. They're super cheap at Walmart. They're like $20 boards or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying
but
to die.
They're like the plastic. They have
Yeah.
the one lip and then the curve, like the surfboard style in the front.
So you mentioned Mitch Hedberg, and I feel like we need to. This is a great segue into some of the cameos that happened in Lords of Dogtown. Before we're gonna have to do a whole conversation on Heath Ledger's performance, but before we get into
Nice
that,
socks, man. Nice socks.
oh my god, I loved him.
And
Cameos.
even before we get into that, we have a Streamlabs from Mr. John Lastrina. Thank you, John. You're always the best.
Thanks,
John tipped us
John.
$10. Be like John.
Aw,
Everyone
thanks,
in
John.
chat, be like John. John's great. Unless you're always here, then fine. You can hang around. And he says, I'm very concerned. It's been 33 minutes and no one has mentioned that Fast X trailer premieres next Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. You know what? I'm not upset. I'm just disappointed. You know what, John? You're right. So I think we should turn this into a Fast X podcast, and we'll just talk about
We'll talk
living
about
our life
now.
1/4 mile at a time. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. I didn't know that it had a specific date and time, so that's good to know. Very informative. Once again, be like John, inform the audience.
So
Let us know
Sean
what's
and
up.
Jesse, make sure you're not at work.
I will
next
definitely
Friday.
be at work next Friday.
If I was going to be off, I'm now going to make sure I am at work.
Jesse is not the one to respond to a Fast trailer or do a trailer reaction for Fast, considering he's only seen like 2 of the movies.
I feel like I
Or
should
less.
do it ironically and just like watch the trailer, no emotion, and go, thanks for joining us on our reaction to this movie.
I'll tell you what, I have an idea and bring it up afterwards because we need to talk. I have an idea. I have an idea for a trailer.
So now that we have over 1,000 subscribers, we can start our Patreon, starting with Jesse watches Fast and the Furious for the first time.
Yes. Jesse's gonna watch Fast and the Furious right after Chris watches The Sandman.
Only for money. I am not doing that for free. You literally do have to pay me to watch Fast and the Furious.
I'll tell you what, I like the movies. They're good movies. They're
You are
not
allowed
they're,
to like
they're not quality, but they're
God damn
they're
it,
good.
Jesse.
They're fine. Anyway.
John, there's at least somebody on the screen that likes Fast and Furious. Stay
I
for
like
them.
them. Allison
Anyway.
loves them.
Allison had points.
Before we get into the cameos, I just wanted to bring up just it's 1/4 mile at a time. Don't ruin my bits. I have ideas. I have an idea.
All right.
I just wanted to point out that Airborne has a young Jack Black, and you're
Whoa.
missing out in life.
I obviously am.
And
Wait, who else is in there? Jack Black.
Seth Green.
Look at that handsome devil.
Look at him. Look at this young boy. Little young Jack
Wow.
Black.
He's unibrow Jack Black.
Yeah, he was young. You got to watch Airborne, Jesse. It's a fun movie.
Okay.
I love this.
It's a good
This
time.
is
It's a
great.
good time.
So cameos.
Good,
We have,
cameos.
of course, Johnny Knox. I wouldn't put Johnny Knoxville as a cameo, but Wikipedia does.
He
As
was a full-on character. He had
yeah.
multiple scenes.
but obviously, as you pointed out, we have Jay Adams as a house party guest. Tony Alva was an organ man at party, is what he's listed as.
Okay, so maybe he was like in the background playing the piano or something.
Yeah, no, Oregon as like the state.
Oh. Okay.
Oregon.
I don't remember a specific scene where they're like, "I'm from Oregon."
No, it's just there might have been a party in Oregon at some point, and he's there. Stacy Peralta is a TV director, so I'm wondering if he was the director when they did the Charlie's Angels thing, and he came in and made the comment of like, "All I see is hair." That might have been Stacy Peralta.
That makes a lot of sense.
My favorite cameo is Tony Hawk as the astronaut,
As the astronaut, where he steps on the board
and he slips his like moon boots.
Yeah, moons, yeah. He's like, "Nah, I'll stick to outer space."
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Renner
Yes.
A young Jeremy Renner.
Very young Jeremy
Renner.
Renner.
Who was all coked out.
Yeah.
when Michael Oregano, I never pronounces his last name. The kid from Sky High. That's what I know him from, Sky High.
I know. I love that movie. One of my favorite Kurt Russell appearances.
And him and Shea Wiggum were the two like shady managers for Jay Adams. And then he's like, "Oh, cokeheads over there." I thought that was good. That was good.
That's great. Let's see. You also Skip Engblom apparently shows up. He was the race starter in Seattle. So yeah, a lot of some really good cameos.
I think what's fun about Skip is when you watch the documentary and you see old pictures, like they totally, with Heath Ledger, they nailed the look of him, but it's funny how different he looks when he got older. He looks like two different people.
When you get old and fat and lose your hair, you turn into a very different looking person.
Right. But that's a point that gets made a lot on, at least like on this in the Wikipedia article, is Heath Ledger's role. I mean, Heath Ledger does nothing half-assed. And they said that during his performance was like spot on to how Skip was at that time.
During that time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like his mannerisms, how he spoke, how he did things. Like,
am I missing something, or was like Ho not really in Lords of Dogtown?
Yeah, the board shaper guy.
Yeah, and he was like a big part of the shop. He was just
the shop was actually his name. It was Jeff Ho's Zephyr skateboards, but it probably.
Lords of Dogtown did kind of drop us in the middle of the story, though. That's one of the things that I really did appreciate about the documentary, is you kind of get the full scope, because like the skateboards, as rinky-dink as they were, existed when Lords of Dogtown started. But the documentary takes you to like how that was first constructed, people taking parts from their garage, slapping it together, and it gave you more history and background about the Zephyr shop itself, and then how Stacy Peralta and Tony Alva and stuff came into the picture 15-20 minutes or so into the documentary. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan of that, and I appreciate Sean for bringing that up so I had an excuse to watch it.
I remembered this very differently because I haven't seen it so long, that I thought this was like it was the beginning of the boom of skateboarding, but it wasn't the beginning of skateboarding.
Right.
And I didn't remember that it was already around. But I do like what they said. Someone said it in the doc. I don't remember which person it was. Maybe Craig Stasiak or something. I don't know. One of them said it basically like skateboarding would have became what, Little League was, right? It was a novelty for kids if it wasn't for all of this happening. And then maybe it could have happened somewhere else in the country, sure. And this is just the popular one because it's where it happened. People always wondered, like, why are we watching a movie about this? Well, because it's this person's story. Otherwise, you'd be watching a movie about someone else, right?
Right.
That's how movies work. You're watching this story. So we're watching this story. So I wonder if it would have happened elsewhere if it didn't happen there. But I guess we'll never know. That's what divergent timelines are for. Life's a simulation.
And it really is but it's just like, it's one of those things where it just takes one person doing one thing differently for it to all kind of explode. And I think so I watched Lords of Dogtown first before I watched the documentary, because I didn't have to pay for Lords of Dogtown like I had to pay for the documentary, so I was going to watch it first.
I had to YouTube rent both of them.
But like with watching the documentary and then with watching Lords of Dogtown first, then going into the documentary, it definitely, there were a lot of like aha moments that I had, because I think the one thing, and I feel like the critics that dislike the movie kind of get it right. The filming and everything for like the skating part of it was incredible. Absolutely amazing. It looks like anyone who's like, when you're filming like a really cool skate tape, like that's what it looks like, right?
Right. They used a lot of fisheye.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But the story itself and how it kind of gets put together, it felt a little choppy at points. And it's like, okay, all of a sudden, okay, now we're not together anymore. And everyone's off doing their own thing. And now we're following this, but there's also this story here and this is going on here. And it was a little like, because they're trying to cover, 10 years or whatever in a very short amount of time.
Right.
So it definitely got, in some ways for me, was a little bit choppy, but watching the documentary right after, I'm getting all of these gaps that are being pulled out of the movie are being filled with it. And the one thing that I wish I did but didn't have time to do was, after watching the documentary, going back and rewatching Lords of Dogtown right after, which I wanted to do, but I ran out of time because I completely triple booked myself this week with other recordings. So it didn't happen. But I feel like then other things would have been a little bit more clear. But what I do like about the documentary is, while it did take liberties with like certain things, or with Lords of Dogtown, is that it did take like liberties with certain things. Like they shortened the name of the skate shop and surfboard shop to Zephyr. They, gave Sid a little bit of a storyline, even though his name wasn't actually Sid. In the documentary, used like his real name, but it still felt like it was very true to the source material. And I think that's what you get when you have someone like Stacy Peralta, who is writing his own really kind of biopic, right? Like, you're gonna be more true to your source material. And I really appreciated how realistic he was able to get it to be. Cool. Yes. Good talk.
I was like,
I was watching the guy drop off our food for my kid and make sure he grabbed it off the porch. Sorry.
I was listening intently. You made a great point. Yes. And I agree with you. And I do think that going forward, it would be great to revisit, Lords of Dogtown for you, at least post watching the documentary.
No, I definitely will, for sure. It's on the list of things to go back and watch.
It makes me wonder if so Stacy put this whole documentary together, probably took a few years, probably took time. He had to get interviews from everyone. I imagine how long a documentary takes to, edit and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he put this all together, and he was creating the narrative, right? He was creating the story off of people's verbal and pictures and this and that. So I wonder afterwards, before he wrote the movie, what type of feedback he got in between the two, because they came out 5 years apart or so.
Yeah.
And so he probably, the documentary probably came out, and then he's like, he probably got people going, that's not how it happened, and it happened this, something like that. Yeah. Like I can imagine, especially knowing these people, and getting actual feedback.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to see, oh no, I was dating his sister, and this and that.
Right.
Which was a whole different, family dynamic that was happening.
Right. Oh, absolutely, for sure.
Also, mid-90s was another skateboard movie.
Oh, mid-90s is so good.
The Jonah Hill movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's also
I haven't seen it yet.
It is and is not a skateboarding movie. Like, if you go in thinking that you're going into a skateboarding movie, it's a drama that has skateboarding as a backdrop to it. It's kind of really depressing, but it's a great movie.
Yeah. Kind of depressing, or actually depressing?
Up to the person, up to the individual.
Depends on if you have a soul or not.
Yeah, I walked out feeling like a nap.
Real good sell. I can't wait to watch it.
Sean is putting it in right now.
Sean has already rented it. Yes, it's in the queue.
Right after I watch Schindler's List. I can't wait to get to mid-90s.
Please come on Flickin' Reel where we sit and laugh about Schindler's List.
No one has been monstrous enough to make me watch it, so we're just gonna.
I've never seen it either. We can watch. We do a watch along. Let's do a watch along for the channel.
We're gonna do a Schindler's List drink along. We're all gonna get drunk watching Schindler's List.
That sounds like an idea.
I
won't say it's a good one, but it's an idea.
Pre-canceled.
Yes.
William Harold in the chat would be on board. He said this is the best movie ever made. Which I'm not gonna lie, I have heard this, but I get why people would probably say it, even though I've never seen it, and I do not want to watch it.
You don't have to. Just Fair be there enough. In the chat.
Fair enough. So kind of getting back into the swing of things. To my favorite part that I love doing with this show is I love getting everyone's kind of top 3 moments from the film. So in regard, it's kind of hard with the documentary, but in regards to Lords of Dogtown, Jesse, could you name a couple of moments that are just your absolute favorite?
Okay. Because I felt like it encapsulated skateboarding so much, when one of them discovers the concept of like, hey, the waves have been lame for like 3 days straight. What are we going to do? And they wait for that girl's parents to leave. It's like, look, there's an empty pool because this drought. We don't even know what we're going to do. Let's just throw our boards down and huck our body weight at it. And I'm like, that is skateboarding. I can't tell you how often in my like late teenage years or early 20s, my friends and I would just slap some stuff together, push some things together and be like, I don't know if this is skatable. Let's try. And the amount of things that you would just build together, like the first thing I learned to drop in on was like, you know, those wooden park benches?
Oh,
like,
God.
Park tables, right?
Yes.
Like there's the tabletop and the 2 benches.
Jesus Christ, Jesse.
So the table, my parents had one in their backyard. It broke, right? So like one of the benches broke out from under it. So it was at a slant. And we had some concrete in my backyard. So I dropped in on the table onto the concrete and off a curb. But that's skateboarding. So that one really resonated with me. I love that Skip was ready to back his boys up at that first competition when Tony got into it with the super dickhead. I don't know if he was a judge or referee or whatever. He was telling Stacy that he was disqualified for touching the ground. So I love that stuff because the whole thing about skateboarding is the rules are there are no rules. So to have somebody try to implement rules on somebody, I was like, no, man, fight the power. But yeah, and I'm sure there's a third one in there somewhere, but I've already rambled too long. Sean, I like skateboarding, guys.
I don't know if I have 3 specifically. I'll tell you my one. Oh, maybe okay. I come up with a couple, but my I love that they kind of wrapped up the movie in a way to kind of bring them back together, whether that was true or not and how that happened. But I guess they do explain that in the documentary. They say, you know, I wonder how the timelines work because it kind of seemed like the Dogtown sessions were they at the end of the height of their skateboarding after they had gotten famous, or were they before? I wasn't really clear on the timeline in the documentary, but I do like that they ended the movie that way to show the camaraderie between the 3 of them and the random kid with brain cancer, you know, their friend in the movie. So that was kind of cool. They can come back together, and you could still see Jay, even though he obviously went down a bad path. Like he still had this love for his buddies. Even though there was definitely some resentment there, you know, where it's like, hey, you guys are off making millions of dollars probably. And, you know, I'm still struggling to pay my mom's rent, which is tough to watch. My favorite moment, though, is with Tony and Stacy when they come to the end of the competition. And I think it's right before Tony gets in the fight, which kind of upended it. But he goes, Stacy goes, oh, it looks like it's just you and me. And Tony looks at him and goes, no, it's not. It's me. And he's like, in that show, that's perfect to like the heart of the actual person themselves, like how full of himself he was.
Yeah.
But also like you have to have this unbridled confidence in yourself to become the best at something, whatever it may be. And so that showed it off perfectly. And I just always remember that line. I think it was like a line in the trailer too.
Yeah.
But I always thought that was really like a good moment between them, even though like Stacy was like obviously not the more famous one, but like the more well-off one in the long run. He had this too. He had this chip on his shoulder because, you know, they showed him like they're like, hey, we're gonna start a skate team. They showed him specifically like training, like he in the middle of the night, he grabbed his skateboard, he went out in the parking lot and he started trying. He didn't make the team, but then he shows up to the competition, makes the team. So it's like, hey, you know, you're not going to give me a chance, I'm going to take my chance.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I also really enjoyed when I love Emile Hirsch and like literally everything that he does. And I think that they do such a good job showing not just like their relationships with each other and how they're strained or growing apart or things like that, but also kind of, I just think all the guys that were in this just played these roles so well. And when Stacy realizes that Emile Hirsch is now with Nikki Reed, with Tony's sister, and he's like, what did he say to him? He's like, he's like, you can't handle a girl like this. And he goes, you can? And he's like, yeah, I can. I guess I can. And you're just like, fuck you, dude. Like,
it's such a dick move.
Such a dick move.
I guess to be fucking around with like
your
buddy's sister, which was just a weird whole scene, you know, with them all sleeping together in the same room.
Yeah.
And then to your like one of your best friends, and literally just taking like watching them have a little tiff and then swooping in. That's such. But I guess it plays to not like the character of the person. You know what I mean?
Right.
I guess he was just that type he was a trouble guy. He was that type of person.
100%. I think that the way that they showed his decline in a way was done really, really well.
Yeah. Well, they show that he's ambitious. He has limitless
talent. Like he could have been. I feel like he was the one that could have, and it feels like the way that they showed in the movie that he does have the resentment, but like he should have and could have been up there with the money that Tony was making and Stacy was making. But the issue with him is where you have Stacy practicing in the middle of the night and Tony, it felt like Jay took it seriously, but also
it was raw talent. Like it wasn't, it didn't seem at least like he spent all his time practicing and working on it, and he had a mind for inventing this stuff. Like he would just go off the cuff. That's why they talk about how wild he was in competitions. He would just do things.
He would just do it, but then he wouldn't go and practice it to do it again.
Right. And it seemed to kind of reflect in his life. Like he didn't come across as a planner. He didn't plan in his skating. He didn't plan in life. And he just kind of did things, and things happened to him, or he happened to things, and it fell through the cracks for him a little bit. Whereas Stacy planned the most, got the most, and Tony was at least chasing something. It didn't feel like Jay was chasing something other than just his own strive to do things.
And the next month's rent really is kind of what it came down to. So where Stacy, it looked, Stacy could have gone with the topper and that quick money and everything, but he was very smart with what he did. Tony shot to the top really fast. Jay just took what he could get and then ended up fucking him over.
And even that he screwed over himself, at least in the movie, with that advertiser from Slinky, or that guy from Slinky, who was like, just sing this little jingle real quick. And he was like, you can fuck all the way off because this is not me. You got the wrong guy. Yeah.
For sure.
The movie did a good job at portraying that. Yeah.
I agree. Okay.
I think they didn't do a good enough job at showing exactly what you were mentioning with Ho and his, like, it was his original team, and then also Craig Stasiak, who was played by Pablo Schreiber, which I didn't even know who that was.
I just realized that.
Yeah.
Like
when I really saw him,
it's his little girlfriend or whoever in the when they're at the party in the green that tries to hit on Jay or Tony. Is that Sofia Vergara?
Sofia Vergara, yeah. Young Sofia Vergara.
Hasn't aged a day.
That's Sofia Vergara. She's so hot right now. And
so hot right now.
She looks identical. She looks exactly the same. And no, that was a different guy. That was some I don't know the actor.
Isn't her husband's name Jay in the show? What is the show called?
Modern Family.
Modern Family, yeah.
Jay.
Yeah.
I love Sofia Vergara. Oh,
I don't know. I don't watch this show. I don't know anything.
So hot.
She's married to Joe Manganiello.
That's true.
I know. Yeah. Good for her.
But anyway.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Good all around.
Congrats, are good all around. There are a couple that like are so, if they were like not celebrities but like just regular people, they would still be a couple in my head that are so good looking together that would have the best looking babies that
I was just thinking of that.
I just want to punch them both in the face.
Right.
And the
like
baby.
It's not fair.
And the baby.
I think I saw punch the baby in the face. I think I saw a picture of I saw.
Jot down that time, 59:40.
I don't know if it's a magazine cover or something online, but I saw a picture of like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's kid who's doing modeling now or something. I'm like, that is just too beautiful of a human. Like, I don't understand how they can just make people this way.
I hate when people are so good looking. You just want to punch them in the teeth.
I know, that's why all the mirrors in my house are broken, because I was just walking
So with all this being said, we're getting into the hour mark now. So I think now is a great time to
super chat in to see Jesse punching babies.
Oh,
that's a whole other side of YouTube, Sean.
Oh man, we ran out of time. Wrap it up.
And with the $55
Go ahead, Allison.
Streamlabs, we're ending the show.
Allison's time to wrap it up.
We're gonna go into Letterboxd. We're gonna rate both of these movies out of 5 stars. I'm gonna start with Lords of Dogtown. This one for me, I'm gonna give it. This is a solid 3-star film, right in the middle, out of 5.
5, okay.
So 3 stars right there. We'll hit that one, and then we got to get into Dogtown, if I can spell, and
More
Z-Boys.
Like Lords of Dogtown, because it's a documentary.
You're so proud of yourself, Jesse. Guys,
No.
I heard a really good dad joke. You want to hear it?
Yes.
What?
Whenever you're ready.
You can tell which one of the 3 of us has had any alcohol today at all.
What is Beethoven's favorite fruit? Banana.
I usually like dad jokes. I actively dislike that one. Permission to have a takeover for just a couple seconds. Oh, great. Perfect. So I just thought, since this is skateboarding and I am the skater, it would be fun to share. Who wants to watch me eat shit for like 10 seconds?
Let's go.
I was about to say, I can find my old camcorder if you want to see some shit.
This is like 13-year-old me. Not 13, like 18, 19. I was 21.
Oh, is that how you fucked up your knee?
Hurts so bad.
That was after knee surgery.
Anyways, so
No,
my
keep
rating
going.
the rest aren't falls. They're just itzies. But
so now my 5-star rating. I really liked my dad joke. Okay, I'm gonna redeem myself. I've told you guys this one before, but pretend I haven't.
Banana.
How do you tell the difference? How do you tell the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? It depends on if you see him later or in a while.
Ha 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 ha. It's really good. So,
anyway, my ratings for Dogtown and Z-Boys, the documentary, is also, it's going to sit at a solid 3. I was into it. Not my favorite documentary I've ever seen, but I enjoyed it. So
how do they rank with the other movies you've watched so far this year?
Well, I'm going to hurt feelings. But they would probably go both of them would go right behind Cliffhanger, which would then keep 2001: A Space Odyssey at the end.
So you're gonna hurt Adam Collins' feelings.
And William Harold, he likes that movie too. And anyone else who loves 2001. Look, okay.
I was watching.
Just like in defense of my feelings on Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I get it. I understand it. I know what Stanley.
That's a Florida joke.
Allison, did you watch Crawl?
Half of it. I fell asleep.
I feel like that would, if anyone's going to react to Crawl, it should be the one living it. Right?
My friend, they live up in the hills, and when they leave their front porch, they have to always look around for rattlesnakes because they come out of the weeds and there's like tall grass around and stuff. When Allison leaves the house, she uses to look around for alligators. Like,
no, I don't live near any water specifically, but
do you have like a clicker like that you shake and it scares all the alligators away?
No, I just don't go walking near the water where they could be.
Okay.
Like the people who get snatched up by alligators or like their pets get snatched up by alligators get too close to where the alligator would be. Like don't take your fucking dog by a retention pond.
Right.
Like you're asking for your dog to get eaten by said alligator. Zero sympathy for you.
Yes.
If you live in Florida.
Fucking rattlesnakes.
If you live in Florida, expect that there is a body of water and every body of water has alligators in it.
That's the safe assumption.
I digress. We've given my ratings. And now at this point, gentlemen, I'm going to hand it off to you guys because we're going to get on out of here with this episode if you've never seen it. So plugs, Mr. Jesse, you can go first. What you got going on?
Well, my favorite plug is the 2 Used and Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I'm going to be seeing again tomorrow when it goes back into theaters. Can't wait for that. But outside of that, you can find me on Twitter at Jesse Swift. It's a pretty easy one to remember. You can also find me in roughly 30 minutes back here on the channel for Friday Night Speakeasy with Sean, Wingblade, and I believe a guest.
Can I come hang out since I'm awake now?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
cool. Great.
We'll be talking about all kinds of
meeting.
things, but even bigger than Speakeasy, tomorrow is the official return of News and Views back on the channel. We're excited to have it. I got busy. I had to bow out. Chris Anthony Lopez is going to be the new host of that show. Of course, bringing back Scott Fox to talk about all the latest in geek culture, box office, and all that good stuff. So we're very excited for that.
Scotty too hottie.
Did the Worm in WWE back in the day.
Correct,
Scotty Too Hottie. Yep. Good stuff. Anyways, just watch everything on this channel and you'll see me pop in and out and all that good stuff.
Speaking of Scotty Too Hottie and like old school WWE, you guys remember when they made it sound like or look like Val Venus got his penis chopped off by Kai and Tai?
No.
Of course.
John the Street knows what I'm talking about.
John knows. I guarantee John knows exactly what you're talking about.
Sean.
I would posit a question to the chat and to anyone who's watching this after the fact and to you two on my screen. What's another double feature, like a documentary that goes along with a movie? Like, what's another good combo?
I mean, we already did one. The Room and Disaster Artist.
Yes, we did do one.
We did that a year ago.
Week. Alice and I were talking about that last week. That was a year ago. It's
oh, guys, I got Lastrina to pop. I got a pop from Lastrina. He's back in. He resubscribed and then made burner accounts to subscribe because of it.
I read that 3 times I read that 3 different times as I just pooped Allison, and I was like, what?
The lights went out. Exactly.
I don't remember this at all.
Oh, it's great.
What's up, Cheryl? Thank you for joining.
When I started watching wrestling is when Paul Bearer was buried in cement. That's when I started watching.
I remember he used to walk out The Undertaker, and I think, did Kane put him underground?
I don't remember.
I don't remember now. It's been a while. Robert Adams, I've never seen either of those. Never seen Apocalypse Now. So that's Scorsese, Kubrick?
I don't know, but that is also eventually coming probably to You've Never Seen It with the movie guys.
It could be. They'll make you watch. Is Harrison Ford in it? Of course. Yeah. They'll make you watch it for sure.
Eventually.
It was Coppola, right? Coppola. I knew that, I swear. That's
the fact that you guys know these things always blows my mind, and I love it, and I'm here for it.
Okay, I'll give you one. What was the? It was a Royal Rumble. I remember vividly. Kane was walked out to. No, Kane came to the ring, and he was chased away. He eliminated himself because a bunch of orderlies from the loony bin showed up and tried to put a straitjacket on him. Tell me which Royal
Rumble 99. No,
that might be exactly.
No. Hold on.
It was definitely in the 90s.
No, Kane started coming around. Yeah, in the 90s.
No, Kane's been around for a hot minute.
He started coming around like in the early 2000s. So the whole thing that he was Undertaker's like long lost brother. I'm gonna go Rumble 2002.
It was definitely. I was in like elementary school. It was in the 90s. I'm pretty sure. But They were the Brothers of Destruction. That was my favorite tag team of all time. Other than I like the Dudley Brothers too. Dudley Brothers were good,
The
but
Dudley Boys?
I liked American Badass Undertaker way more than I ever liked
What
Deadman.
is happening right now?
We're going off the rails.
We are. So, Sean, what do you have going on? Where can everybody find you?
Find me on Twitter. You know.
Hey, heads up! Next
At
weekend,
Sean Woodward.
Super Bowl. There will be mini trailers.
We can't say that. It's the big game.
What?
We just got demonetized, Jesse. God damn it.
We can't say Super Bowl?
No, don't say it again. They're gonna copyright the channel. NFL owns all the rights to that. Now we have to give them all $2 we made tonight.
It's the super
$2. That's awfully generous of you.
I'm just going to watch a Rihanna concert. If there's a game going on around it, like whatever.
That's what John Lustina super chatted in, just like everyone else in the chat can do, because we have super chats.
We have super chats now. We're going to be getting out very soon. So if you want to throw a super chat or a sticker in, go ahead. Sean, I'm cutting you off and I'm going into the rest of my exit. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel right here. Hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon to get notifications for every time we have new content drop. Please leave a comment with your thoughts on the Lords of Dogtown and Dogtown and the Z Boys. If you want to throw grind in there or your fun wrestling facts, we will take those as well. If you end up listening to any of these episodes on audio, wherever you get your audio podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. You can follow the show on Twitter at NeverSeenItFNR. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Allison Salamoni. And until next time, my friends, see y'all in about 30 minutes with the speakeasy thing. But until next time, be safe. I'm going to go watch some more movies. And I really appreciate all of you hanging out with us on the second ever live episode of You've Never Seen It. But we're going to get out of here. So we'll see you guys later. Bye.